Welcome back, everybody, to this week's live episode of the DCL Duo Podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel. And Sam, I'm super excited. We've got a great guest returning. We always love talking to the incomparable Seth Kubersky this evening. Cannot wait.
Absolutely.
I think incomparable is a good word, right?
It just means there's no one like you, Seth, right?
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you having me back on to not talk about the Disney Cruise Line.
Yes. Tonight's show is going to be a little different. We're going to ask Seth about some cruising, but we are going to be talking about something you can do before you cruise on Disney Cruise, or even after. Although we always recommend parks before, cruise after. But before we dive into that, just want to thank our live show sponsor, the WDW magazine, DCL magazine, really the live show sponsor. They are trying to make this magazine happen. Let's make it happen for them. Let's make Fetch a thing and make DCL magazine happen. So head over to dcl-magazine.com. Order your subscription, your copy, really, today. They're going to put out a float test issue. They're hoping to get to 5,000 subscribers. If that happens, then they will make it a permanent thing. And so we've got 5 copies on issue or on order ourselves. So head over. Let's make it happen for them. dcl-magazine.com. And while you're over there, if you want to grab anything out of the WDW store, use code DCL Duo, all caps DCL Duo, for 10% off anything in the store. But let's help them out over there. They've been great show sponsors. We love Stephanie, the entire crew over there at WDW magazine. So we're really hoping we can make some things happen for them. So yes, with that, Seth, you've got more credentials than we need to talk about Universal, but let folks know who you are and about the unofficial guides a little bit before we dive in.
Absolutely. And your cruising creds, because you have
my cruising. Well, I don't have your kind of cruising creds. I'm not quite on that level. But when it comes to the theme parks and Universal, I am the co-author of the Unofficial Guide series, going on for a dozen editions now. I do the Unofficial Guide to Disneyland and the Unofficial Guide to Universal Orlando, as well as pitch in with the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. I would love to contribute more to the Unofficial Guide to the Disney Cruise Line, but I've been on quite a few Disney cruises in my lifetime, including a transatlantic on the Magic, which is the best cruise I've ever taken. But not many recently. Recently, instead, I've been cruising a bunch on MSC, which stands for the Mediterranean Shipping Company. And I think a lot of people in this country probably have never heard of them, or only just heard of them in the last couple of years since COVID, when they've really started to make a push into the U.S. market, especially Florida.
Yeah, so you just got off MSC, Davina. We were talking off air.
I did, yeah.
And you've sailed a bunch on MSC, as you just said. I do want to spend a few minutes asking you about that, because we've heard mixed reviews about MSC coming from different places.
And Seth, we did a whole episode in our back catalog with Seth on MSC where we compared with Disney Cruise Line. So we're just gonna do a little brief update here. But
So I think if you go back and listen to that, probably everything that I said there is only intensified in some ways for good and for bad. The Divina was the very first MSC ship that I ever went on several years ago, and that was the one I just went back to. And it's heading very shortly into dry dock, much needed in my opinion. It's still a very beautiful ship. It's got this Sophia Loren classic design to it, which is gorgeous, but showing its age and some wear and tear, as all ships do. The staff is still first rate, particularly in the yacht club areas. The staff is absolutely phenomenal, and they take great care of you. And honestly, as long as you don't leave the yacht club, you can have an absolutely wonderful experience. And their yacht club experience is priced more like a standard experience on a lot of the other cruise lines. You get a lot for your money with the yacht club. It isn't exactly cheap. If you want cheap, they do have entry level rates, and you basically will get what you pay for. It is a herd experience. It's basically the Italian equivalent of a Carnival cruise on the bottom end. But on the
one of the hosts that moved over from Disney Cruise Line, a concierge host, is now with MSC. I'm not sure what ship he's on, but it's Guilherme from Brazil, who's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, everyone with the concierge, with the VIP staff in the yacht club has always been phenomenal. But it's when you wander outside the yacht club on MSC that things sometimes get a little wonky. I'm going to be going next month on the premiere sailing of the World America, which is kind of their attempt to compete with the new kind of Royal Caribbean super class of ships. With the big open area in the middle of the hull and lots of attractions. So we'll see how they manage a ship of that size. I personally,
how big is that one? Is it like an Icon, or is it more like a Utopia?
Split the difference, maybe. I don't have the numbers in front of it, but it's for MSC. It's definitely the biggest that MSC has ever done. I don't think it's quite record setting, but it's a couple of years ago it would have probably been a record. In some ways, like some of the shows were much improved. Though the first time I went on MSC, there was a lot of tributes to African American singers performed by white people, which was a little weird. They've gotten more sophisticated and culturally appropriate, which yay them. I actually really enjoyed 3 out of the 4 shows this time.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a step up in terms of that, but there's still just on a lot of the little guest service and internal communication. There's a lot of situations there where the left hand doesn't necessarily know what the right hand is doing. And unless you are in yacht club and have someone at the concierge desk to advocate for you with the other departments, sometimes you can kind of feel stuck in the middle.
That's the feedback we've heard is when things like in the yacht club, when things are going well, things go really well, and MSC is but when stuff happens, it's it's not the onboard crew. I mean, the onboard crew may be its own issue, but a lot like Disney, right? Like the onboard crew is limited in what they can do to help you in the moment.
It's the shoreside management doesn't necessarily. I don't think the executives who make policies have ever actually sailed as a guest. I firmly believe that, and that's true of cruising and theme parks and hotels, just about anything. If the people who are actually signing the checks and making the policies had to check in anonymously and stay as a guest and experience that, there'd be changes the next day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what I keep hoping Disney will eventually do. Because I actually hope what I really want is a Disney executive to go on like a Royal or an MSC and their yacht club and see what they're getting for the money, and come back and ask the question, is the concierge offering on Disney really delivering what it should be? So
4 days in the yacht club with the balcony with unlimited drinks and a private restaurant and a private pool and all that on MSC would be cheaper than the same 4 days in a basic balcony on Disney. With no extras. Not surprised.
Well, we're here for your expertise about Universal.
Absolutely.
And I gotta get set up for this, you guys.
Okay.
Throw these away. Sorry. Goodbye.
Oh.
I gotta bring over here Mario. I gotta take off my Disney Cruise Line sweatshirt. I'm wearing a Mario shirt. And then just one more thing, okay?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I
got my slap bracelet, my power up band. Okay, and now I'm ready.
And I gotta say, today is Mario Day. It's MAR 10, so 10. Mario Day. So we're on brand for the date.
Totally on brand.
I'm Mario and Yoshi today, right? Like I've got it all.
There you go.
My power band has been carried from California to Osaka and back to Orlando, so it's got a high carbon footprint at this point.
I love it.
Not wearing it.
This one is, of course, and as is the shirt. These are from California, of course.
Yes, but they will continue to work. You can recycle them here in Orlando, sync them up with the app, and you'll be able to keep tracking your scores.
Love that.
Nice.
Love
and so we're set this up.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about Epic Universe, basically. We can also talk about Universal Orlando, but really, I think everyone wants to know what's going on with Epic Universe. So we should start with, Seth, just for those who have been under a rock or have been so in the Disney bubble, they have not even lifted up to look, up the highway at the theme park up there. What is Epic Universe? What's Universal cooking up there?
Epic Universe is the first brand new ground up theme park built here in the Orlando area since the turn of the century, since we had Islands of Adventure and Animal Kingdom open back to back in the late 90s. It's been a quarter century since people in Orlando have seen an entirely just a land, not just a ride,
old, because that makes me think about when Animal Kingdom opened.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was a teenager at the time.
We're all rapidly aging. So that's the exciting part, and this is kind of really, in a way, almost doubling Universal's footprint in the Orlando area, because they're going to have their main campus. But this new theme park is setting up a whole new area of Universal property several miles south, actually much closer to the convention center and Disney. It's actually right along the expressway that you would use to head east to Port Canaveral. Very, very convenient to that beach line out to the port. And it's a huge park, maybe not necessarily in terms of number of rides, but in terms of just expansive landscaping, and it comes along with 3 brand new hotels and a fleet of buses that'll take you back and forth to the original Universal, and this is Universal finally trying to stake their claim to most of a guest's week. They're no longer content with 2 days or 3 days. They want your whole week, and if you take a day out to go to Disney, that's fine with them. But they want you staying on their property, primarily going to their parks, and they want Disney to be the accessory to a Universal vacation instead of the other way around.
So when is Epic Universe actually opening? It's soon, right?
This is coming up in late May 22nd. Do I have that right? I should know these things. I should have this memorized, darn it.
Listen, we don't know. We know it's soon.
Just over 2 months. But soft openings or testing for employees, team members, is happening right now. And I'm getting my first media preview before the end of this month. So
oh wow!
I'm just a couple weeks out from getting inside the park myself.
Wow, because it has to be really done. I mean, maybe they're doing some landscaping, flowers and things like that. But like the rides have to be built. They've got to be testing things
absolutely.
Right now.
Some of them they've been testing for months and months. All of the roller coasters are cycling and running consistently. The only question mark right now is the big new Harry Potter ride, the Battle of the Ministry, which is kind of Universal's attempt to outdo Rise of the Resistance. They want to make the most advanced ride ever, and it's having a little bit of teething pains. So I don't know a lot of people who have actually gotten to ride that one yet, but pretty much everything else in the park is in pretty good shape.
So what are the... go ahead. Go ahead, Seth.
Well, it's just, those of us with long memories can remember Universal has had teething pains opening parks and opening rides over the years. They do not. They don't have a great reputation of opening things and having them be reliable out of the gate. So I think
then the lines issue, right? I mean, like when Hagrid's first opened, I mean, people were waiting for like 8 hours to ride.
And the opening day for the original Wizarding World of Harry Potter had folks wrapped all around City Walk, which was both great publicity and also, kind of a big stay away sign. They want to for sure make sure that all of these rides are battle tested and cycled and are ready to go before the grand opening in late May.
So what's the setup for the park? It's got 4 different lands, I think, or essentially
So you've got a hub area which is called Celestial Park, and that is kind of original IP. They've developed original characters. It's got a mythological theme with a sort of Greek astrology influence. There's an Atlantis themed restaurant, and that kind of flows through to the Helios Grand Hotel, which is the big luxury hotel that's got its own entrance directly into the back of the park. First time Universal's tried something like that, similar to like Tokyo Disney Sea. But arrayed around that, you've got 4 lands. And what makes it a little different from like a Magic Kingdom hub and spoke is that each of those lands does not connect with any of the other lands. There's like a magical portal where they can literally close the doors off, if capacity needs to be or whatever. They can literally shut these portals off to control traffic in and out. And so once you're in one, you'll explore whatever there is and then leave and go back into Celestial Park. But you're not going to be able to like go directly from, say, Super Nintendo World straight into the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. You've got to come back out.
So the spokes are just unconnected. It's still a hub and spoke, but the spokes are not connected to one another.
A lot the way the original Disneyland park was back in the early 50s and 60s before they started connecting the lands internally.
Wow.
Yep.
And so why don't we go? So what are the other lands? So we know about Harry Potter. Maybe we start with Harry. Start with Harry Potter.
We've got Harry Potter and the Ministry of Magic. Originally, way back when this was planned, they thought that the Fantastic Beasts movies were going to hit it real big. And they kind of swung and a miss with those. But even if you didn't like the
films,
they
still haven't finished them, by the way.
Well, I think they're finished.
I know, I think they're finished.
I'm not holding my breath for another one to come out.
I know.
But what they did have is great production design for all the stuff set in 1920s Paris. So like, even if you didn't see the movies or didn't care about the movies, the Parisian streets are just something that you're going to want to walk around. If you like Paris and Epcot, this is that times 100. Full size, not forced perspective, but full size buildings, full size streets, and both this Battle of the Ministry ride, which is going to use a mix of practical sets and some screens, but no 3D. No 3D anywhere in the park. So if you hate Universal because you hate sitting in a chair and shaking around in front of a 3D screen, there's the closest thing to 3D is the augmented reality visors that you wear in the Mario Kart ride.
Which is I'm a fan of those AR visors in Mario from the California version. I must say I am happy to not have 3D.
Yes. And then I think the sleeper hit of Harry Potter area is going to be the Cirque Arcanus show, which is a magical creatures circus with acrobats and illusionists. And I know some folks who are working on that. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
So what is it? What do we know about the new Harry Potter ride that you said is going to be, it's trying to outdo Rise of the Resistance? Do we know what that's about in terms of what they're trying to, what new technology?
So they're kind of like bending time and space here. You start out in 1920s Paris, but then you walk into the Metro Flu system, and you suddenly appear in London's Ministry of Magic, circa right after the last Harry Potter movie. So Dolores Umbridge is going on trial, and you're going to see the trial. So the ride vehicle is kind of look a little bit like a Twilight Zone Tower of Terror elevator. It's not going to be a drop tower. It's not going to move up and down that much, but it's going to move up and down enough to make you really feel like you're going up and down, and then move through a building, through some of the biggest sets, animatronics that are hopefully a lot better than Anna and Elsa, with facial projection of the actual actors, kind of making an animatronic look like a real person. A lot of cool new technology that they've patented for it, and it looks like, if nothing else, the scenic design, the scope of the sets is just going to be massive.
So kind of like the elevator system from the movies, it could move up, down,
Yes,
sideways, back and forth.
exactly.
Yeah.
In the Mystery of Magic in the movies, you've got these kind of Willy Wonka style elevators that can go in any direction, and that's what's going to be taking you through this battle between
I
the
love a
Ford,
Wonka Vader.
exactly, between Dolores Umbridge and the Death Eaters, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione are going to pop up and help you out.
Wow.
That's so cool. Well, and it's so cool that they're gonna like actually be able to use the actors' faces and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of that.
So the
Listen, the
original
thing
trio have kind of aged out of it. So
Right.
they're using digital stunt doubles
Of
for
course,
them.
yeah.
But Imelda Staunton, who was the Queen and also was Dolores Umbridge in the films, she did return to film new footage. So that's
Very
kind of
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Very cool. So I know that there is like I'm going to call it a classical monsters land.
Yes, that's the one I'm really excited about.
All right, talk to us about that one.
So Dark Universe is kind of an updated reimagining of the original 1930s black and white classic monsters that kind of gave Universal the reputation as the birthplace of horror films. You've got Frankenstein's monster and the Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Invisible Man, all the classics. But they're not the Bela Lugosi version necessarily. The idea is that the granddaughter of Victor Frankenstein, who's Victoria Frankenstein, has started up these old experiments again and tried to control the monsters, to harness the monsters. So you're in this village called Darkmoor, which is basically the villagers are suffering from PTSD from the movies that we thought were just fiction. They actually, their ancestors actually lived through that, and they're kind of like they welcome people into their village, but they see that these terrible things are starting up again. And there are characters, wandering musicians, and monster hunters, and also all the classic monsters who wander around and interact and sort of bring the whole storyline to life. I'm really looking forward to exploring this place after dark because I think the lighting, they've got fog coming up out of the well and coming up, out of the forest. I think the atmosphere of this place is going to be absolutely amazing.
Now, do you think they're going to extend Halloween Horror Nights to this part of Epic Universe, or is that going to stay just in the other?
I think this is going to remain its own thing, at least for the first few years. I think that the time might come where they could do special overlays or treats or little additions for Halloween. The Halloween Horror Nights requires sound stages. It requires those big, buildings and tents to build the haunted houses in. From what I've seen, there's some empty fields that are expansion pads for future lands, but there's not really the kind of infrastructure that they've got built up over at the old parks to do Halloween Horror Nights. I will say, though, I remember when Islands of Adventure was first built, going through the queue of dueling dragons. If you remember the old dueling dragons before it became the Harry Potter Dragon Challenge, and it was this huge queue that was filled with skulls. I remember walking through with one of the designers and hearing someone say, "Boy, this would make a great Halloween Horror Nights queue." And the designer saying, "Oh no, we would never do Halloween Horror Nights here." And within 3 years, they had done Halloween Horror Nights there. So who knows? Who knows?
Is this land going to be like family friendly, or is it going to be a little bit too scary, you think?
I think if you've got little kids, probably you want to go through during the daylight. The Curse of the Werewolf ride, which is a mock family spinning coaster. It's not a super extreme spinning coaster like some of the similar models. It's kind of like Kitty's first spinning coaster. It goes back and forth, and there's a kind of a spooky werewolf animatronic along the way, but it's a good tween ride. And I think that the big headliner ride in there, the Monsters Unchained ride, it's using the same sort of robo arm technology as the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey ride, but it's designed to not make people puke because it doesn't have those projection domes with the simulated parts that make people really queasy. It doesn't like have the tunnel vision. It opens it up so you can look around you, and it's more physical sets, and it's going to be a really visceral and frightening in terms of the animatronics, which are like really huge and fast and aggressive. But I don't think it's going to make people nauseous the same way that Forbidden Journey does.
I'm just picturing the corporate slide for the the ride, and it's like goal 1: don't make people puke.
Don't make people puke. So my problem, like in general with like Universal, and I would never go to a Halloween horror nights, is I don't like to be scared. I am a fraidy cat. Like I don't watch scary movies. I won't even watch the old stuff, right? It doesn't matter that it's like so fake and kooky. Like it's just I don't want to be scared.
You might want to avoid August through November.
Oh, I do. I do absolutely. I absolutely avoid anything Halloween related.
We went to Universal Hollywood. It was Halloween Horror Nights.
So we left.
We left the park early when everyone was coming in.
We got out. We saw people coming in their costumes.
That's the way to do it because it's dead in the mornings before horror nights.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
So I know there's a How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes, the Isle of Berk coming to life. That's actually physically the biggest land in the park, but a lot of that because they have so much water. I guess we're draining the rivers of America over at Magic Kingdom, so we're getting our water features back over at Epic. And that's it's also got the most attractions. It's got Hiccup's Wing Gliders, which is a family-friendly launch coaster. I've kind of heard it described as like a family-friendly velocicoaster, where it's like very close to the water, skimming along, giving you a good view of the whole park, but nothing upside down, no inversions. If you want to invert, they've got this. I just call it a spin and puke. It's this kind of like thing where they stick you on an end of a giant pole and throw you up in the air, and you can flip over and over again. And that one I wouldn't be standing underneath. And there's a fire drill. It's a splash battle. It's a kind of an off the shelf boat ride where it's interactive. You get a water cannon that you can blast targets. But it's been all themed out with like kind of handmade looking Viking training targets, where you can pretend to put out fires caused by dragons all along the route.
That sounds fun because it's kind of like you're doing a carnival game, right? If you're shooting water, like shooting water at the balloon, but you're in a moving vehicle. So then it's kind of like Buzz Lightyear.
Kind of like Toy Story Mania, except you come off. Exactly.
Yeah. I like it. I like that.
The thing I'm really looking forward to is the Untrainable Dragon. They did a version of this show in Beijing, and it is like a huge Broadway style live show with giant puppets, flying effects, live drumming. It's really a really impressive show. A lot of talent going into that, and some great meet and greets. They have these puppets with animatronic faces that are like they are the dragons from the movie come to life. And so you can meet all of your favorites. There's a lot of wandering characters. And a lot of interactivity.
Am I misremembering? I feel like I saw like flying dragons in the land.
Oh, yes. So you might remember that when they had the grand opening of New Fantasyland at Disney World, they promoted it by having a dragon drone fly overhead once. This is at Epic Universe. It's going to be a regular occurrence. They've got these dragon-shaped drones, and they're going to be soaring overhead on a regular basis. So keep an eye out for those for sure.
Let's get some X-Wing fighters into Star Wars land. Right? Didn't I see something about that? Yeah.
Disney does all these amazing things that only ever happen once. I think Universal, if they put the money into something, they want to get their money's worth out of it.
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking at a map that someone put out and all the expansion space. I mean, it looks like they've got a whole nother land potentially carved out here, and lots of expansion space for the other land. So it to your point, it seems like they got more planned for this park than what their opening day would suggest.
Yes. I mean, there's already places where they're going to be adding some restaurants. They're going to be adding food and beverage, and some merchandise, I think, very soon. I've seen credible plans for a dining expansion to Harry Potter. That could be themed around the Great Hall. Everyone's always wanted to dine inside the Great Hall, but there's really no place to put it inside the Hogwarts Castle that's over in Hogsmeade, because it's only a model.
So sad.
Now that they've established this flu network can get you from Paris to London, maybe they could have another branch of it that could get you over there. There was a spot that was originally supposed to be for a virtual reality broomstick riding attraction that got axed. So there's some land over there. There's some land behind Dark Universe that was earmarked possibly for a Creature of the Black Lagoon boat ride that could be the answer to the prayers for all of us who really miss the Jaws ride, or just have submechanophobia and or get really creeped out about mechanical things underwater. And over by Super Nintendo, there's a spot that there was talk of a Luigi's Mansion kind of interactive Omnimovie ride. There's also been talk about bringing Pokemon and or Zelda into the parks. There's spots in Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure that are really ripe for redevelopment. So I think the Super Nintendo World we're getting here, which is kind of like the one that you've been to in Hollywood, plus a Yoshi ride, plus a Donkey Kong minecart roller coaster. I don't think that's the end of Nintendo in Orlando. I think we're going to see more Nintendo coming in coming years.
I'd be super excited for a Luigi's Mansion because I love that game on the Switch, and I keep hoping they'll put out a new one. But yeah, that's fantastic. Talk to us about. So the Donkey Kong ride is doing something unique as well.
So a lot of the other rides are kind of refinements of other attraction hardware, but I really feel like this Donkey Kong Minecart Madness, which first opened in Tokyo, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, where you have something that really looks like the scenes in the Donkey Kong Country video games, where you've got a mine car that leaps off of the tracks or switches from one track to another. And the way they accomplish this is the track that you see under your wheels is just a prop. It's just a set decoration. The real track is hidden underneath and it's kind of sideways. And there's a hidden arm that kind of comes up and then attaches to the side of your vehicle. So your wheels and your track that you see yourself leaping off of is really just there just to sell the illusion. And it looks pretty darn good from what I've seen of the POVs and from people who are watching it from outside the ride. It's not the most thrilling. It doesn't have a huge top speed or any loops or anything like that. But I just don't think there's any other, anything quite like ever since I saw Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, I've always wanted to ride in a mine cart like that. And so I think this is the closest we'll ever get.
Do you think that this park will be doable in a day? And I ask that because oftentimes folks who are going on a cruise like we are maybe only going to spend one day in a park or 1.5 days or maybe 2 days, or they're not spending the whole week because they want to get on that cruise. And the cruise is going to be, 5 days, 7 days, even 4 days, right? So they're not like their whole vacation is not a theme park vacation. And that we're that group, right? What do you think for Epic Universe? Is this going to be a 1-day park, or is this you're going to have to spend 2 days to just hit all of this park?
So in terms of the raw number of attractions, it's a 1-day park. But I think when you take in the atmosphere, all of the interactive things, like you've got that power up band, you can easily spend 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on how into that you are on that. I just got one of the brand new second generation interactive Harry Potter wands, and I easily killed 3 hours a piece in each of the parks just doing playing with those wands. So it could easily be a 2-day park. Unfortunately, right now, Universal is only selling single-day tickets, and for the most part, you have to bundle that with buying a multi-day ticket to the original parks. They don't. So they don't want you spending more than one day at Epic right now. They also don't want you spending just one day at Epic. They want you spending at least 3 or 4 days on their property. So I think, at least for people planning a cruise in the next 3 to 6 months, it might be a little tricky until they announce more normal ticket sales. I think if you're planning a trip for 2026, I think it will be doable, especially if you are willing to invest in express passes. Universal's express passes are not like Disney's lightning lanes. They are much more expensive, but you get what you pay for, because with lightning lane you can still wind up waiting a long time and spending your whole day looking at your phone. Universal, you can do what you want in the order you want, and it genuinely does cut your wait down to 15 minutes or less.
What do you think about the staying in one of their hotels?
Staying there
based on location and express pass and all that kind of stuff.
So I love staying in their hotels. First of all, for the early entry, it's going to get you an hour early into into Super Nintendo World in the new park, and if you did that in Hollywood, how valuable that early hour can be of knocking out getting on the ride and also getting to play those power-up games.
Yeah.
So that's real valuable. And the new Helios Grand, just being able to walk right into the park. You'll also be able to walk right into the park from the new Stella Nova, which is a value-priced hotel that's priced like Disney's All Stars, but within walking distance of the park.
Wow, that's incredible.
I've always recommended staying in their 3 most expensive hotels to get that free express pass, but the catch is those are not valid in the new park. They're going to be selling express passes for the new park, but those free express passes will only be valid at the existing parks, not at the new one.
So even if they're at Helios, is that right?
Even Helios is actually priced significantly cheaper than any of the 3 hotels that include the free express passes. So it will not. Yeah, Helios will. To be honest, the hotels are not owned or run by Universal. They are by Lowe's. And the original contract between Lowe's and Universal, going back a quarter century, just specified 3 hotels that would get express passes to the 2 parks that existed at the time that contract was signed. If Lowe's wanted to start giving express passes to the new park or to people at a new hotel, that would come out of Lowe's pocket, and that's not happening. So
just the entry. So if I had to stay at Helios, for example, you'll have the early entry and you'll be right there, but you'll have to pay for express pass.
Correct. You will have to pay for express pass, but the next best thing to express pass is single rider, and almost every ride in the park is going to have single rider. All of the roller coasters, all of the big thrill rides, they've all got single rider. I'm sure it will work better at some attractions than others, but I know something like Forbidden Journey, that's a 4-passenger vehicle. When it's an hour and a half wait, I usually get on single rider in 10 or 15 minutes. So if I can do the same thing on the new Monsters Unchained ride, I will be a very happy camper.
So just to make sure I understand, so where we're at in terms of the tickets. So you have to get in, you're going to have to buy a multi-day ticket to the existing parks.
At this very moment, they are only selling packages and multi-day tickets that include multiple days of the old parks plus 1 day at the new park. Or you can buy a vacation package. If you are an annual pass holder, you can buy a single-day ticket. They have some military add-ons, but they haven't started just standalone single-day Epic Universe ticket sales to the general public or express tickets. They have said that will happen before the park opens. They've got 2 months and counting, so clock's ticking. I think they don't They would rather not be flooded and overwhelmed. They would rather open the spigot slowly than to kind of get a situation where they've oversold and can't meet the capacity that they've committed to.
Well, and they're going to sell separate annual passes for this park too, right? From what we've heard, we don't know.
They have not announced how annual passes will work. Right now, annual passes for the old parks are only valid for the old parks.
Okay.
I assume at some point there will be an add-on, but I don't think that point will come in the next few months. I think it might the terms and conditions of all the current annual passes say that goes through the end of 2025. So I think we'll see new options in 2026.
Well, and we know from talking, because we did a VIP.
Unless the park's a flop and they need it and it's empty, and then we'll see all the annual pass offers. So we'll see what happens.
And we know from talking to a VIP guide at Universal that they'll have their own VIP offering just for Epic. So you're not going to be able to buy a VIP tour at the old parks and expect
no. Yes, that will be its own thing too.
Yeah.
And I will say that I definitely recommend park hopping between IOA and the studios. You've got the train to take you back and forth. It's really easy to just walk through City Walk. But I think that even though it's a fairly short bus ride, it only took me about 15 minutes to take the bus from the old campus to the new campus. I still don't think it's going to be practical to walk all the way into the new park just because it's such a spread out park. By the time you get into one of the lands and then walking all the way back out, I don't think you're going to be hopping back and forth between the old parks and the new parks. And right now, there is no park hopper that includes both the old parks and the new park in one day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, for right now, only the park hoppers are only taking you between the old parks.
Yeah, I bet that'll come in the future, but it still might not make sense. It's like, park hopping between, I don't know, Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Just not the best use of time, right?
Yeah. And maybe a kind of thing, if you rope drop for a couple hours, go back to the hotel, take a nap, and then you close out the night, last few hours in another park. But it'll be a little bit of a commute.
Can you book the hotels today? Are they bookable?
Yes, the hotels are all the Stella Nova is operating. It's open right now. The Terra Luna was supposed to be open. They had a slight delay, but they will all be open by opening day. And thoughts and prayers to the opening day staff, seeing all these people trying to check in on the first day of a new theme park.
There you go. Well, Seth, I guess if you were going to, folks doing this pre-cruise, right? It sounds like maybe don't do this in the near term, right? That's a good.
Maybe not the first 6 months.
I think that we know the theme park culture is the first few weeks, first few months of anything. It gets slammed, it gets overwhelmed, things break. Unless you feel the need to be first, let the professionals like me be the ones to wait in line for 3 hours and then have a ride break down on us. I can take the time. Your time is valuable, so maybe give it a little time to work out the bugs. But I would say by the fall, maybe, and certainly if you're planning a cruise for 2026, I would definitely consider it. I think that definitely staying on property. The two new on-site hotels that are right there at the Epic Universe that are the value hotels. I think way better priced, better amenities than any of Disney's comparably priced hotels. And like I said, you're cutting off 15, you're almost 20 minutes closer to the cruise port there versus going all the way to Disney property.
Yeah, for all those DCL rope droppers out there.
But you can't take a Disney bus from
there is not.
No, so you're going to have to take private
true.
Transportation.
Hopefully in a few years, the Bright Line is going to be extending. I've taken Bright Line down to South Florida. It goes down to the cruise ports there. Doesn't yet have a stop either at Universal or Disney or at the Port Canaveral area, but that's on the drawing board. So hopefully in just a few years that'll become an option.
Yeah. So, Seth, I'd be remiss in not asking you a couple of tough questions about this.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
So you said up front, this is Universal's bid to get people away from Disney.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of buzz around this, and I got to say, a lot of positive buzz from people who I'm used to seeing, like not great positive buzz around. So around new theme park things. So, do you think it's enough? Do you think they're going to start to draw the Disney crowd over to Universal? I think they've already. Let me say this. I think they've already drawn some of the Disney crowd over to Universal. But do you think they're going to pull even more?
I think that Disney's been doing a pretty good job in the last couple of years of pushing people away. With a lot of policies and changes and price increases that have really made people question their loyalty to Disney. There's still going to be a critical mass of people who are just, it's in their soul that there's something about the Disney pixie dust that they are never going to want to give up. And that's cool. I don't think that Universal is ever going to beat Disney in the sense of having more pure raw numbers. Just Disney's just got, it's the Titanic. The Titanic sank, but this one, sorry, bad analogy.
That comment could age.
That was a Fox movie anyway.
That comment could age better than you know.
But they have all the Disney. They have all the Disney IP, and it's not the same. Like Universal can create some mythological storyline for this celestial park or whatever, and that might be lovely. But it's not going to beat Mickey and Minnie and the whole gang, and of course, Elsa and Anna and all of them. The only thing that I think, the two, for me, the two pillars for Universal that they have going are this guy and Harry Potter, right? I mean, those are the two big IPs that they don't own, but that they have licensing agreements with that are really big brands that could really draw, huge fans, right?
Globally, Mario is probably the biggest, most recognizable character worldwide. And we saw what it did to both Osaka and Hollywood in terms of attendance numbers. Incredible for both of those parks. And I think don't underestimate how many people will build a vacation around Super Nintendo World for sure. The Harry Potter thing is a double-edged sword for every person who just wants more Harry Potter because they love the brand. There's someone who either used to love it but got kind of turned away from it, or is just playing over it and is like, two lands were enough. I think the quality of the attraction and the set design and everything will win over people who don't really care about Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter, but what I really want to do is sit with a coffee and a croissant and in the street and just people watch without having to fly all the way to the real Montmartre. That's what I'm looking forward to there.
And I feel like you can love Harry Potter and the brand without agreeing with and loving J.K. Rowling at all, right? So to me, like that's where I sort of land on it, because I still love the original stories and the characters. And I have to say, Universal just knocked it out of the park in creating the two worlds in Universal Orlando. They just did such a good job in making immersive lands. I mean, to me, like it's, those Cars Land, right? And frankly, Super Mario Land and Hollywood, like these, you feel like you're in the movie, the video game, right? Like there is nothing like it. And so if they do the same in Epic Universe, I will be all in on Harry Potter World, because I'm a big Harry Potter. I'm a big Potterhead.
I noticed you omitted Star Wars Land there, Sam, but Galaxy's Edge.
Listen, I actually love Star Wars. I don't love Galaxy's Edge. I love the rides, but I don't love Batuu. But I loved the Star Cruiser, right? So it's like I'm conflicted about Batuu.
I never got to do the Star Cruiser. What I think for me is missing from Galaxy's Edge, which I think we are going to have, at least in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and I think in the other lands at Epic, is the sense that it's alive, that it's not just a movie set, but that there are things going on in people. There's so much entertainment. There's so many people I know who are bringing original characters to life. Wizarding World, there's going to be exchange students and aurors and evil wizards wandering around. And the level of interactivity that they've added to the wands now, how there's not just one spell, but there's a whole adventure that takes you from one place to another, and that there's special ones you can only unlock if you've done other things, sort of like with the Bowser Jr. and the power-up bands at Nintendo. They've just added a lot of layers of texture. The e-tickets are what is going to draw people into the park, but I think what's going to keep people there is all of these little atmosphere and interactive things that make it a place you want to just hang out and spend time in.
I want to flip this question that I asked originally kind of on its head for a second. Like, let's say you're sitting in the boardroom over at Disney, and someone turns to you and says, I guess it's not, what do we need to do to respond? Disney has announced now what they're going to do.
According to them, they've already responded.
Yes.
According to them, the respond was Tron and Tiana's and Guardians, which I'm not sure if I buy that, but okay.
But let's combine that up with all the other announcements they had at D23. Let's package up. Is it enough? Or do you think that the undercurrent, like you mentioned, they pushed some people away with some of the change? Like, do they need to roll some of that back? Or to your point, Universal's never going to beat us on raw numbers, so what do we care? I mean, like, what do you think the response is here, or should be from Disney?
So my issue with Disney is that they have spent a lot of time and money, like literally billions of dollars, figuring out how to push people into queues, out of queues, in at restaurants, at moving people around without giving them genuinely more things to be moved around to. Like everything that is new that's been built has been built on top of something else. Even though Walt promised that we had the blessings of size, it doesn't seem like they've taken advantage of it. So while Universal has genuinely added capacity with the new things that they're building, it's like, I'm excited for a Monsters Inc. roller coaster, but it's going to do 12 to 1,400 guests an hour tops. Yes, Muppet Vision was running at half empty houses, but half empty, it's pushing 12 to 1,400 people an hour. So that's an even swap, except the difference is instead of just being able to walk into Muppet Vision, I'm going to have to either buy a lightning lane or stand 2 hours in a line. So I want Disney to keep building new things, but I want it to be genuinely adding capacity to the park, because they can't squeeze any more capacity out of lightning lane schemes. That's not, when you've got basically half the people in the park buying a lightning lane, but you're devoting like 90-something% of capacity. You're sending one person in standby for every 9 people in lightning lane. The numbers just don't add up.
Yeah. Well, that's where it seems like instead of squeezing more people in, they're just trying to extract more dollars from each person through the gate, right?
That's the other flip side of it.
Yeah.
That if you start looking at the the dollars per attraction experienced per day, has kind of, it was kind of like a gradual, and we're kind of fallen off a cliff. So that's bad for long term. Disney got a lot of revenge travel right after COVID, and a lot of people were just like, I'm going to spend whatever it takes to go to Disney. We've been cooped up in the house for the last 2 years, and didn't have great experiences because of all of the changes. And are those people going to want to come back again in 4 years or 5 years like they used to every 4 or 5 years? I don't know.
And the same will be said about, I think, the disability community with the changes to DAS. I know people, I don't know if
that could be a whole nother hour.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I'm not sure, like, people talk about it enough as far as how it has impacted Disney. I think there are a lot of people who have not renewed annual passes or are choosing to vacation at Universal instead of Disney World in Orlando because they have a better system for their DAS pass.
I have some personal experience with it, and it's impacted the way me and my family visit the park. I will say that Universal is partnered with the IBCESS. I hope I got the acronym right. They also work with SeaWorld, I think, or Six Flags. You can basically register online in advance, and they have a special queue at the parks to pick up a pass. It works like DAS, but it's just paper. You don't get to do it on your phone, which kind of stinks. So you do have to actually go to the attraction to get them to write down a return time. But it's they do not hassle people with physical disabilities or a lot of the things that Disney cut out. Universal is much more accommodating for.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Sam, any more questions you have about Epic Universe? I feel much more educated about it.
I want to ask Seth the ultimate question, which is
the ultimate question,
which is if he's got one day,
42.
one day, and
day.
one day, and you're before your cruise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose any Disney park, or you can choose any Universal park, right? So you can choose, or you can choose SeaWorld, frankly, if you want to add them into the mix, right? If you have one day,
don't forget Legoland. I
mean, well, Legoland is for a different demographic. Yeah. You have only one day, Seth, to do a theme park in Orlando before you're headed to Port Canaveral for a cruise, or before you're taking the Bright Line to Miami for a cruise. Mm-hmm. Which theme park are you choosing?
I gotta say, I'm just so excited about Epic Universe, and I would say, if you can get the ticket, you can, especially if you can stay on property and do the early entry, or buy yourself an express pass. It's gonna. I mean, to be able to say that you went and saw this brand new theme park in its opening weeks or months. There will be some hassles, I'm sure, but it will definitely be an unforgettable experience. If we're taking Epic off the list for right now, I would say it kind of depends on what kind of a person you are. Do you want a day of relaxation, of Zen, before your cruise? In that case, I would probably do either Animal Kingdom, or maybe Epcot if there's a festival going on. Just go to Flower and Garden and look
right. You got to eat and drink around the world. It makes sense. And
but you're going to be eating and drinking plenty on that cruise, probably. So you might want to pace yourself there,
right?
And I would say that if you are, if you're an attraction junkie, if you're a thrill junkie, if you want to ride rides, and then you're only doing one theme park in all of Orlando, then it's got to be Islands of Adventure. Because you've got Hagrid's, you've got Velocicoaster, Spider-Man, still a classic, Forbidden Journey. I think, right off the top, you've got 4 or 5 e-tickets that are, second to none. And if you want to get your cruise vacation started with some adrenaline, that's got to be the way to go.
Nice. Well, Seth, we always appreciate having you on. Let folks know where they can find you, where they can get their copy of the Unofficial Guide to Universal Orlando, so they can start planning their trip. So tell them all the things, Seth.
Absolutely. Well, you can find me on social media platforms at S Kubersky, SKUBERSKY, or at The Unofficial Guides, and you can head on over to theunofficialguides.com to order copies of Unofficial Guide to Universal Orlando, or Disneyland, or Disney Cruise Line, direct from us, or pick it up in your local bookstore. Even go to your local library. Go for it. I'm okay with that. Support your local library. That's fine.
Love it. Love it.
Nice.
Well, friends, I will be back next week without Brian. Brian will actually be away on a work trip in the lovely Puerto Vallarta. I know he lives a hard life, but I will be back next week.
I will be in windowless conference rooms in Puerto Vallarta for most of the time.
You're gonna find some time to go to a pool. I will be back with a guest, Christine. She has been on a recorded show before. She's coming on to do our live show. She will just be getting back from a adult only cruise with her husband on the Disney Wish, and they were able to do a port upgrade to concierge. So we're going to be talking about her cruise, and we'll talk once again about whether the Wish is worth it, because we, of course, now that the treasure is out, there's always that question, but we're going to talk about her fabulous cruise next week. We'll be on at the same time, or I should say I'll be on at the same time, which is 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So catch us there. And don't forget to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and give us those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Brian, have I forgotten anything?
Not a thing. I also want to highlight, we've got some other great guests coming up later in the month. We got Emily coming back on the show from We Do Disney Right. Fantastic guest. Can't wait to talk to her. We've got Rebecca coming back, ABD Guide Rebecca, who's a fan favorite on the show. She was a cast member on Disney Cruise Line. And we do have Danny now rescheduled, ABD Guide Danny, friend of the Genie, coming back on in the next towards the end of April.
Towards the end of April.
So we've got a lot of great stuff coming out. Seth, again, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We love having you on. So I can't wait to have you back. Maybe after you get some preview time.
After I get in there, and then we can see if my predictions came true.
There you go. Other than that, thank you again, Seth. Thanks everyone out there for watching, and we will see you next time.